Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight. My name is Justine. I am a first-year medical student at Wake Forest School of Medicine, and welcome to tonight's virtual town hall. Medical school application season is an exciting time for applicants, but it can also be extremely anxiety-provoking and challenging. Too often, applicants receive misinformation from misleading sources. The application process is already long and challenging enough as it is, and getting accurate and honest information shouldn't be a struggle. Before we begin tonight's event, I do want to briefly talk about YPI. Our organization is composed of motivated medical students who are really interested in making a career in medicine more accessible and equitable. Here at YPI's pre-med portal, one part of YPI, we achieve this mission by hosting town halls every few months with the hope of gracious admissions deans from across the country. As the people who make admissions decisions, they will be helping us to filter out the fiction and instead provide facts and reliable information tonight. In just a second, we'll be introducing our panel of medical school admissions faculty. We'll be answering both yours and our questions in a live Q&A. If at any point you have questions for our panelists, please post them in the comments section. Just a few pointers about questions. First, the shorter the better. The program won't let us display long questions, so please keep them concise and no longer than a couple of sentences. Second, if you have more than one question, feel free to make multiple comments. You can ask as many as you'd like. We usually receive more questions than we can answer, though, so we try and select questions that the most viewers can benefit from. So if you have questions highly specific to your situation, please consider how you can rephrase them so they may be more applicable to other viewers as well. Finally, we really appreciate your feedback, so please take some time at the end of this broadcast to fill out our very brief survey. A QR code will be shown on the screen, so be sure to scan it right after we finish. Now, time to introduce our panel. First, I would like to introduce Ms. Reed, the Director of Admissions at UNC School of Medicine.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. As Justine said, my name is Ms. Reed, Director of Admissions at UNC School of Medicine. And my job is to oversee the day-to-day operations of admissions. I do pre-med counseling, post-interview counseling, and just be the advocate for the applicants.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Chavez, the Director of Admissions at Stanford School of Medicine.
Good evening. Thank you. I am happy to be here with you all. I appreciate the work that you all are doing with the Young Physicians Initiative. My name is Albert Chavez, and I'm the Director of Admissions for the Director of Admissions Programs and Recruitment for Stanford Medicine. And my responsibilities, similar to Ms. Reed, range from recruitment activities such as these, overseeing the application review process, the committee meetings, and
Yes.
recruitment and second looks and a lot of things.
Yes.
So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you both for introducing yourselves. Now it's time to turn to questions. Alrighty, while we wait for our first question. All right, here we go. What advice do you have for applicants with no acceptances but are on one or more wait lists? Ms. Reed, would you be able to answer this, please?
I knew you were going to choose me first. Okay. All right. So for an applicant who don't have any acceptances at the current time and you're on several wait lists, give the process time to run its course. You may be surprised. This is why when you submit your applications to a number of medical schools, you want to cast your net wide and just do yourself a favor. Don't stress too much about it. You may be surprised, but then again, if it does not work out, there's always another opportunity.
Great, thank you. Next question.
If you want, I can go.
Oh, do you want to chime in? We can hold off on the next one.
I thought that there wasn't another question yet, so I was going to chime in, but I was just going to say, first of all, congratulations that you've had interviews, because I think if you're on wait lists, you've overcome a big hurdle. So that means you're close, so you should be encouraged, not too discouraged. And like Ms. Reed said, at the end of the day, whether or not you gain acceptance this year, the fact that you are this close is encouraging, and maybe next cycle. But I could go on about a lot of different advice, because that's such a broad question. But yeah, I just do want to say that the fact that you're this far in the process is encouraging. So congratulations on that.
Great, thank you. All right, next we can turn to our next question. Okay, what do you expect the interview season for your institution to end?
Well, I guess I'll go first on
all right, go for it.
I can tell you that our interview season has ended as of a week and a half ago, I believe. So our cycle of interviews is usually from September through February, and this year was a little earlier than in past years. So we have concluded the cycle.
Okay, and at UNC School of Medicine, our last day of interviews was January 31st, and we also begin the interviewing season in September, and in years past, it has gone into February, but we really tried hard not to go into February. We managed to finish the last day in January.
Great, thank you both very much. Next question. How much weight is put on letters of intent or interest? Dr. Chavez, do you want to go?
Sure. So I would say that we accept letters of intent. However, for the most part, decisions have been, well, the Committee on Admissions will obviously review all the applications and make their decisions. I guess the way I would phrase it is that you're welcome to submit letters of intent. Usually they're more beneficial when they provide some significant updates, some kind of notable achievements that might be a kind of a tipping point. But they should have something substantive to add other than your simple interest to or a strong desire for a particular school. If there are important updates, that would be something helpful to include in them.
Okay, at UNC, we do not accept letters of intent or interest. Well, one, we already know that you're interested in our school, and that's why we feel it's important. The MCAT application is what the medical schools receive, to obtain the information about you. Your letters of recommendation, what we learned from you during the interview, that's pretty much what we need that time. But if someone from the Office of Admissions requires an update or some information, we would reach out to you. So if you think about with the thousands of applications that medical schools receive, if everyone was sending letters of intent or interest, we would be inundated. So
yeah, and I want to piggyback off of that, because I understand exactly what you're saying. We don't encourage it necessarily. So let me kind of clarify. We don't, but we will accept it, but we don't necessarily encourage it.
Yeah, and okay, even though we send the information out it's on our website, we tell prospective students that we don't accept updates or letters of intent. When someone does send it, I always acknowledge and say thank you, and wish them well. So it's just not given to the Committee on Admissions, because it's not and it's really not to keep the process fair across the board. If you do allow one person to do it, you got to do it for everybody. So
one more thing I want to say about that, because related to, this is, applicants are kind of oftentimes sometimes they disregard those instructions. And,
yes.
And we have a similar rule about updates at the point when you have submitted the secondary application. we do not accept any more updates unless at such time that you have been invited to interview. But people do kind of send things, and you really shouldn't, because it's pretty clear on the instructions. Please don't.
Yes,
So be conscientious of that, and be aware of which school's rules you are following.
that's right. I agree.
Thank you both so much for that. We can now turn to our next question. What stood out to you in a reapplicant that assured you they were ready for admittance? Dr. Reed, or sorry, Ms. Reed.
Okay, thank you for the increase there. The promotion. Okay, so I'll tell you that it's important for a reapplicant to demonstrate significant change from the previous application. And if a reapplicant has done that, taking the time to strengthen their applicant profile, and they do that, we see that, we offer them an interview. The process is the same. The Committee on Admissions, reviews the application, and there's a voting process that's involved. And when they do what they do, then we let the applicants know. So your individuals, it's important for you to choose experiences that mean something to you, that you have an interest in. Be yourself. That's how you stand out. So with all of that information that we have, we compare the previous application to the current one. And please, if you're reapplying, change your personal statement. You've got to do that. Make the effort to do that and show us how you have grown. Those are the types of, excuse me, items that will show us, the change and the growth. And of course, what we learn, during the interview process.
I'll just say something about that, because we actually have a question on our secondary application that asks if you are a reapplicant, and then we specifically ask you to tell us what is different, essentially. And we actually have some categories to let us know. So what I want to emphasize is that you really, my general thought on this is that depends when you're a reapplicant. If you're a reapplicant right away, you just found out this month that you did not gain an acceptance to medical school, and next month, 2 months from now, you're applying again. It may work out, but generally it seems to me that, and also it depends. Did you go as far as getting an interview? Okay, that might be different, how you're going to prepare and how competitive an applicant you are. But otherwise, I would say that maybe it's helpful to consider it is obviously important that you take time to figure out what is it that is kind of missing in your application. We don't look at your previous application. We just know that you did apply previously, and we ask you what is different.
Great. Thank you both for sharing that. We can turn to the next question. For applicants who feel that their MCAT score is an obstacle for admission, how might retaking the exam impact their chances of admission?
Okay, all right. So on our website, we have the minimum criteria for, the two pools of applicants, in-state and the out-of-state applicants. And out-of-state is our largest pool. So the criteria a little bit higher, and it's even more competitive. So if, let's just say someone received a total MCAT score of 485 first time out, it would be a good idea to, do more preparation, take more time, practice tests, make sure that your science foundation is strong, and retake the exam. I always advise a good 4 to 6 months of preparation time prior to taking the MCAT. And those who, did not do well the first time, I always ask, how long did you study or prepare? And it's usually, maybe a month or two. You really need to, this is a 7.5-hour exam. and it's a beast. Take the time. A lot of the prospective students have a tendency to rush and try, I've got to, apply this cycle. Med school's not going anywhere. We're here waiting for you when you are ready to apply. Take the time. It's a journey. Journeys take time and preparation. And just so you know, you only have, if you continue to take the MCAT, and let's say you have a 507, 508, that's after 2 or 3 times, it's pretty much where you're going to be, and it's not going to change.
I'd like to add that when you're evaluating why it is that you did not gain admission, sure, it's possible that your MCAT score, if it's significantly low or, that may have impacted something, sure. However, I really encourage you to in that additional time, say you have that another year to apply, it's not just the MCAT that you should be focusing on, because when I think of all of the content in an application, between all the essays, all the secondary, all the letters of rec, all of these experiences that you spend a lot of time describing,
yes,
the MCAT and the GPA is like, they're like 2 digits, right? I mean, the amount of information that we're evaluating is so comprehensive that little factor, I mean, as relevant as it is not going. I don't think that for the most part, that is the tipping scale. I mean, it's usually other areas that you really should be working on: research, leadership, advocacy, whatever it may be. So don't just say to yourself, okay, maybe my MCAT needed improvement, sure, but that's not the only thing you should focus on during that. I mean, if you need to, because that's all your capacity is to focus exclusively on to study, okay, fine, I understand, but just don't ignore the other elements that are going to be important to continue developing.
That's right. I agree with you. And I'll say again that make sure when you're choosing your target schools, you go onto the individual websites and you look up what their criteria are. Make sure that your MCAT and your GPAs align with that school, so that you'll get past that pre-screen process, and then the rest of your application where you've your experiences, that's what they'll be able to focus on. But don't assume that it's your MCAT score, not unless it's, like I said, 485 or lower. I mean, that's kind of this. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you both. We can turn to the next question now. What advice do you have for non-traditional students currently working in another full-time job in another industry who may need to reapply?
Another full-time job. What does that? Okay.
So the question is gone again, but yeah. Ms. Reed, I'm kind of also a little unsure, because what advice do we have? I mean, there are a lot of lot.
Yes.
What issues are. I mean, the fact that you are in another industry can be an asset, sure. I mean, maybe you're really accomplished in whatever as a lawyer or something like that. So, and there may be some elements of those skills that can certainly stand out in the med school application process. But I feel like I need a little more, like, what advice? I don't know what the weakness was necessarily. It sounds like, just from reading the question, you're interpreting the fact that you are in another field is probably the reason you believe that you were not successful. But I don't know that that's necessarily true. That in fact, I think it could be a strength. Now, let's say you're in another field and completely disconnected with anything that demonstrates why medicine now. Okay, that certainly is going to be an issue. But based on the question alone, I don't want to assume that the fact that you are working full time in another industry is automatically a negative. It doesn't have to be. So depends what else you're doing along the way to prepare.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I was actually speaking to a prospective student today who's in another industry, and she wants to transition to medicine. So I told her what's going to be important. She's non-traditional. And I think non-traditional applicants are great. They have a lot to offer. You have real world experience. And I feel like when, non-traditional comes to that point in time, they want medicine, they're not trying to prove anything to anybody, like, okay, what do I need to do? But what's going to be important is for the medical schools to see that, okay, yes, this is what, I was doing, but you want to show us that you have been engaged in the field of medicine, that you know what it's like to take care of patients, um, that you get a certification as CNA or EMT, have a skill set so that you can, on the weekends when you have time, you can volunteer, maybe in a nursing home or in the ED at a hospital, and gain some experience, clinical experience, to demonstrate that you have a strong interest in this field that you want to have as a profession. So basically, yeah, the proof is in the pudding. Show us.
Great, thank you. We can turn to the next question. For applicants attending school in the fall, what advice do you have before matriculation?
I was just telling somebody, prospective, hopefully a student that will accept our offer, enjoy.
Yeah, that's right.
She was actually telling me that she kind of wants to leave her job and kind of have some time, and her parents think that would not be a responsible thing, or whatever the case may be. I said, no, do it. You're going to be engaged in a long road.
That's right.
If you can,
Mhm.
that's my advice. Have some time to enjoy.
That's right. Mr. Chavez is right, because you're going to hit the floor running when you start medical school. You're not going to come up for air. I've heard other medical students say that being in med school is like drinking from a fire hydrant that's rushing water. So if you are able to step away from your job and have some time to yourself before starting medical school, do that. A lot of accepted applicants will take time to go backpacking, they'll go travel to another country before medical school. They do that, they get it out of the way. Have some fun before you roll up your sleeves.
And we, also, I'm sure some schools offer some programs. Our school has an early enrollment program. It's a leadership and health disparities program. So, there are other opportunities to engage in that. And even though I am encouraging you to enjoy, I don't want to completely make it seem that I'm sure you will enjoy your time in meds. You will have some challenges, but you will have time with friends, and it's a great period of your life regardless. I mean, it'll be tough, but you will have your social events, you will have your activities, so it won't all be I don't know. I think, Justine, this is where you should chime
Yes, I can speak to this quickly. Yes, please have fun. Please enjoy your life. Do whatever you want before starting, and then know your life does not end once you start school.
That's right.
100%. All right. Do you want to turn to the next question? What are second looks going to look like this year?
Okay, ours is going to be virtual, but what we're providing, and I found out several of the other medical schools, especially in these southern region, we are also going to provide small group tours. We haven't sent the email out yet to the accepted applicants, but will this week. They would have to register, and there'll be small groups, like maybe up to 10 and some less. But and our medical students will give them a tour, of the campus and the medical school. So we're going to do a combo in person, and may have a surprise for our visitors. I'm not giving it away.
Good. We are also going to have a virtual second look, and also similarly, we hope to maybe have opportunities for more informal visits, like tours, exactly just what Ms. Reed described. That's what we intend right now. I will say, though, I do know that there are some schools here in California that will have in person towards the end of April. So there are some that are moving that. We really wanted to. It's
Yeah.
at the last minute to pick. We've been going, thinking about how we can make it, and we're still trying to make it as interactive as possible, and again, kind of maybe options for small group visits.
Great, thank you both. And I will chime in on that. My second look was virtual and we still had a great time. So don't be discouraged at all if it is virtual. Do you want to turn to the next question? What factors should applicants consider when deciding where to attend?
Okay. I think it's important, just like when you were applying to colleges, you go and you visit them, you talk to the medical students who are living the life that you want to live. You want to pay attention to how you're treated. When you call, when you email, if you pop in for a visit, well, you know, mostly no one's popping in for visits now so much now, but I'm just, you know, what, how do, how do the people at the school make you feel? Do you feel welcomed? Are you getting your questions answered? You're going to be spending another 4 years of your life at ABC Medical School. You want to also check out the area, what activities are available for the students. When you're not being a student, it's a lot to take in, and you need to consider that. You want to be in an environment that's going to be conducive to you having a good experience, and also learning how to be that wonderful MD professional for the future.
Yeah, all great recommendations that I agree with. And one other thing that I would suggest is, and this is kind of the starting point, I think, where you should have considered this, or I expect you will have considered this when you're applying. But it's at the end of the day, the mission of the school is going to be important. Is this, the stated mission of the school? Like ours is to be a premier research-intensive medical school that improves health through leadership, diversity, and a collaborative approach to discovery and innovation in patient care, education, and research. So that's a mouthful, but that is our guiding principle. This is what Stanford Medicine is. So that transcends into other areas. What our curriculum looks like, what kinds of coursework, research, and so forth is available. So that is, but I do know that the kind of the more visceral feelings of who you're with, and that's very important in what the environment feels like. So, but it's individual. I'm sure everybody has different criteria for
Yes.
where they will, end up.
Great, thank you guys. So that is all the time we have for questions tonight. But before we wrap up, I do want to ask each of the panelists to share one final takeaway with the audience. I can go first. So I think one of the big things, Ms. Reed touched upon it, is that if you are a reapplicant, actually I think Mr. Chavez did too as well, really, look at your application. I myself was a reapplicant, and so it really resonated with me. Really take a look at yourself and also your application. Do some deep thinking, and just see where you're lacking, because I think being self-aware also goes really far in medical school. So I would say just keep that in your back pocket.
think
Ms.
that was
Reed, would you like to share?
great advice. I just want to reiterate that it's going to be important. Take the time. Remember that applying to medical school, preparing, it's a journey. Journeys take time. You want to take that time to demonstrate that you are on a genuine journey towards medicine. And that's what we want to see. And be encouraged. Some people get in the first time around. Sometimes it takes twice, sometimes three. But stick to it and encourage yourself. You can do it.
Yeah, it does happen. If you didn't get in this time, maybe next time. So I agree with everything that was said. Absolutely. Um, there are, as I think Justine described, you just really need to find the people that are going to give you that feedback. I think a lot of times the applicants make a lot of assumptions about what it is that their weaknesses are, and we usually direct, because we do not provide direct feedback on your application, but we encourage applicants to go to their pre-med advisor. And I know not everyone may have one, but you need to find other people, even med students, if you need to, wherever you can have resources to get more feedback than just what you expect your weaknesses are, because it may or may not be, or there may be other things. Unfortunately, I feel like oftentimes applicants they measure themselves against their world, their cohort. They only know their friends, and so they think, hey, my friend got into med school with this kind of qualification. But you have to think about, the med school has a perspective of thousands of applications. You're measuring yourself against 50 of your friends, 100 people at your campus, whatever the case may be. But there are a lot of other people that see a much broader array of experiences. So try to find those people that have a little bit more wider experience, I guess, is how I would describe it.
That's great advice. Alrighty. Well, again, I want to say thank you to our panelists tonight. We really appreciate both their participation and everyone in the audience tonight for watching. I want to give a special thank you to our YPI pre-med portal team. I cannot talk. YPI pre-med portal team for helping to organize tonight's event, and Dr. Eval Kelly for providing us the streaming platform. So to all of our viewers, please share this with your peers in your institutions. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website for more information of how to watch past live streams on more medical admissions info. And remember, right after this ends, the QR code will populate on the screen for a few seconds. So please be sure to scan that with your phones and fill out our survey. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Good night.
Bye.